international human rights lawyer Toby Cadman joins us live from Paris to speak a little more about this case. Toby, how extraordinary is this court's decision to have what, Sheikh al-Maktoum wanted defined as a private family issue judged so publicly in a UK court with a decision against him? Have you seen this before?
No. Put quite simply, no. I think the question was asked at the beginning of these proceedings why Princess Haya would use the UK courts to litigate such a matter. And I think what we had said then was because she was only likely to get an independent and impartial decision from a court outside of the UAE. And I think we have seen that now. The ruling of this court is unprecedented in what it has exposed in Dubai. And, for those that have been fighting for Sheikh al-Latifa in particular, I think that has clearly vindicated everything that they've been calling for over the last couple of years. So it's incredibly important, and it could well lead to other cases, criminal cases being brought that engages UAE and Indian responsibility for Sheikh al-Latifa in particular.
Okay, but what actually happens to the Dubai royal family and the Sheikh himself now? How is all this enforced?
Well, that's going to be a matter for the legal teams that are representing the daughters and potentially for those that are representing Princess Haya. They will have to decide whether they pursue a criminal case in the UK courts or whether they look at it elsewhere. There is certainly a basis for it. Bringing a case against the Sheikh would be very, very difficult because of asserting head of state immunity. But there is certainly now very clear evidence, albeit to a civil standard, which is obviously of a lower standard than a criminal standard, but nonetheless that this is a ruling by a highly respected judge in the British judiciary who has made a very clear ruling as to the responsibility and as to what's happened with two daughters in particular. But I think a lot of it is going to depend now on Princess Haya and what she does from here, because obviously she knows, and what's come out in these proceedings is that she is privy to information that the legal teams representing the two daughters will need.
Okay, so expand on that. I mean, as far as international law is concerned, what can be done, for his daughters? Can an international court somehow enforce an order to get, for example, Sheikh al-Latifa out?
Well, the International Criminal Court would not have jurisdiction to deal with this case, regrettably, for a number of different reasons. They would not have jurisdiction. But the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention is looking into the case and has been looking into the case for some time. They can make recommendations, they can make demands, and this can be on the agenda of the UN Human Rights Council. So it's the legal teams are not powerless. There are certainly things that can be done and should be done. What we have to understand, certainly with Sheikh al-Latifa, because I know that case better, she was abducted in international waters, and that was an arrangement between the Emiratis and the Indian officials. And we know that the involvement of the Indian government is particularly important because there was an exchange between Sheikh al-Latifa and a British national, Christian Michel, who was handed over to the Indians in response for Latifa being handed back to the Emiratis. So there is responsibility for both states, and both states can be brought in proceedings either before domestic courts or through a UN body.
Okay, but I mean, could the arguably more effective way then to punish, if that's the term I can use, those who are convicted in these courts, in this case Sheikh Mohammed, be, for example, travel sanctions and the humiliation of saying, okay, you can no longer travel to the UK or the EU because you have been found in violation of our laws?
Absolutely, and that is a first step that should be taken, and that is an initiative that can be taken through the UK government, through the European Union, and through the United Nations. At the very minimum, he should be prevented from coming to the UK, where it has now been shown that he had arranged for the kidnap of his daughter, the other daughter, Sheikh
Okay.
Cambridge. So that could be done, yes.
Toby Cadman, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us.